What in the hell did I just subject my brain to? That's right, folks, there's a new Resident Evil in town, and no, it's not a video game. It's yet another live-action adaptation that's bound to cause a brain aneurysm or two. Am I just a salty Resident Evil fan who can't let the past go and accept new things? Or is this actually just a flaming pile of dog shit? Maybe both. Well, let's see, shall we? Heavy spoilers ahead for those of you who care. The show stars Jade Wesker. The first 20 minutes or so really go out of the way to make you either dislike this character entirely, or just not really give a damn about her in the first place. Between cringy comments about Zootopia porn and unnecessary risky mistakes that make her look incompetent, there's not many redeeming factors. Sure, they try and force the whole family aspect into the picture by giving her a daughter, but we essentially don't see anything other than brief conversation, and it's definitely not enough to make any sort of emotional impact on the story. We quickly learn that the show jumps back and forth between modern day and the future. Modern day takes place in New Raccoon City. Jade and her sister Billy are unsatisfied with their new digs. It's no mystery why, as New Raccoon City is not some quaint Midwestern town, but rather a very strange, all-white corporate town located in South Africa. I'd be pretty unnerved as well. What follows is your typical angsty teen behavior. Kids are upset, they blame dad for working too much, get into trouble at school, boys, you know the drill. Their father, Albert Wesker, is working for the Umbrella Corporation, and you will be reminded of this quite frequently. Rule number 1 of Umbrella: if it exists, you better fucking believe it'll be made into an octagon. Octagonal lighting, earrings, mirrors, flashlights, the whole city? Why is this watch not an octagon, goddammit? Umbrella is up to their usual behavior. Headed by a woman named Evelyn, no, not that Evelyn, this Evelyn, they are making a new drug called Joy that is essentially a cure-all. Of course, they've run into a few hiccups along the way and may have accidentally made some horrifying monsters and triggered the apocalypse, but what can you do? Unlike the video games where there's no question on whether Albert Wesker is an enemy, this show treats him more sympathetically. He's a bit of a family man and seems to have the occasional moral dilemma regarding some of the more unethical things the company does. Lance Reddick does a good job in this role and honestly carries the show, even if it's not the villain we know and love. The entire plot of the show happens because, and this isn't a joke, Billy is a vegan and breaks into the Umbrella lab with her sister to save some rabbits. They simply waltz into the facility using a recording of their dad saying his name. Yeah, Umbrella security kind of blows in this universe. They are constantly hacked and undermined by teenagers. While inside, Billy gets bitten by a Cerberus dog and is infected. Their dad intervenes and tries to cover it up. The girls end up doing some more hacking, investigating, and yes, puzzle solving, to find out that Umbrella caused an outbreak in the original Raccoon City in 1998 that was subsequently covered up. They learn about the T-virus, that they were genetically enhanced babies, and that Billy has an increased resistance to the virus. Eventually, in a shocking twist, they discover that their dad is actually just one of several clones of an original Albert Wesker. Goddamn, am I tired of clones. We are treated to the shot of the original Wesker, who looks absolutely ridiculous and is giving off some serious Blade vibes. In an attempt to further drive home the point that the show is somewhat a sequel to the games, they mention that the original Albert Wesker died in a volcano. At this point, I'd really rather be watching that. The girls learn that because their dad is a clone, he made them as a cure for the side effects of the rapid aging he underwent, which include various cancers and other ailments. They have a small falling out, but eventually reconcile and try to escape Umbrella. The girls manage to make it out with another clone of their dad, Bert, while their actual dad blows himself up along with Evelyn in the lab. Of course, this explosion does nothing but slightly inconvenience Evelyn and release a captive tyrant they had hidden in the facility. Congratulations, here's your apocalypse. The modern day story ends with a shot of the girls driving away and pondering a slip of paper their dad gave them with the name Ada Wong on it. Oh boy, more game tie-ins. Now let's talk about the future plot. The world has essentially ended and is now some weird Fallout universe full of mutant monsters and scavengers. Older Jade is a researcher in England who specializes in zeros, this adaption's word for zombies. She messes up and is taken in by a scavenger group who eventually sell her out to Umbrella. The Enclave, Umbrella, flies in and is shown wearing some pretty stupid looking futuristic armor. A villain is introduced, name of Baxter, who is immediately treated as a joke and loses all threat credibility. Jade escapes and ends up in Dover, where she meets fan favorite Barry. Wait. She joins a group of people escaping to France, but they're all wiped out along the way by some lickers, giant spiders, and more. Jade finally surfaces and catches a breath of fresh French air, but immediately is caught again by Baxter. Then, they're both caught by some French cult called the Brotherhood. It's almost like this show is stupid. The cult believes the zombies are a sign from God and they use them for manual labor. Jade wants to know how and finds out that one zombie in particular seems to control them. While in prison, the show tries its hardest to make Baxter likable by giving him the super rare human trait of liking dogs. Wow. Thankfully, Baxter is a self-proclaimed master of unlocking, his words, not mine, and the two escape. Seemingly out of nowhere, Baxter becomes a killing machine, taking out zombies left and right while wielding a Mauser C96 like he's Leon from RE4, all to the beat of some pop music track. It was actually so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh the whole time. Meanwhile, Jade takes the head of the Queen Zombie. It comes down to the two of them fighting their way out of the Brotherhood compound, only for Jade to straight up leave Baxter for dead so she can escape with her new zombie sample. Who's gonna feed his dogs now, Jade, huh? You heartless bitch. Jade is immediately caught by Umbrella again. She's not very good at this. Only this time we learn that her sister Billy has been a member the whole time. They talk, Billy takes pity on her, and lets Jade go. But not before removing a tracking device from her arm that Umbrella had implanted. Jade reunites with the University, a community that lives on a ship. She meets up with her daughter B and her kind of husband, whose name I can't even remember right now. That's how inconsequential these characters feel. She brings the zombie head to her lab partner, and the two of them synthesize some controlling pheromones, one to attract zombies and one to repel them. Like an absolute moron, Jade decides to fish a zombie out of the ocean to do some real-life testing on the pheromones. Guess what? It goes wrong, and a zombie ends up killing her lab partner. Also guess what? Billy lied and had another tracker implanted on Jade. Umbrella shows up and Evelyn gives him an ultimatum. Give up Jade or die. Jade reluctantly goes and meets up with Billy again. Turns out that Billy had actually been controlling Evelyn and is the mastermind behind Umbrella. Are you keeping up so far? Jade breaks a vial of attractive zombie pheromone inside an enclosed space, and somehow that brings every zombie from miles around. She escapes while Billy fights off the Zeros and manages to make it back to the ship. She tells the captain to release the giant mutant alligator they've conveniently kept tied up to the ship, so it will go and attack Umbrella on shore. He reluctantly does this just as Jade finds out that her daughter B has sneaked ashore. She told her to do this earlier, by the way. Jade and her unnamed husband go back to shore to save the kid. The giant alligator wreaks havoc but is not interested in B. In fact, he seems to like her. You'd think it'd be hard to kill the gargantuan thing, but in fact it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. Umbrella blows it up and Billy confronts Jade and B. Jade can't bring herself to shoot Billy, but Billy has no problems letting one loose into Jade's gut. Billy steals B and flies off into the sunset. That's it. There's your story for Season 1 of Netflix's Resident Evil. For me, it simply had nothing to do with Resident Evil aside from the name and a few extremely loose connections. When I think of Resident Evil, a few things come to mind. Horror is the first one. This show is not scary, not even close. It's more of a schlocky dystopian young adult novel that leans way too hard into current teen trends and overuses the word fuck a lot to be edgy and hip. The music doesn't really fit the scenes and definitely doesn't live up to the absolute masterpieces of the video games. The little Easter egg nods to the games are few and far between and are brought up in really conspicuous ways. The characters are boring, incompetent, and essentially aren't related in any way at all except for Albert Wesker, but even that's an extreme stretch of the imagination. Now, I know that some of you might argue that this is simply a take on the story of Resident Evil, but in my opinion, if you're going to utilize a name and a brand to sell your product, you have to fall within certain boundaries. I wouldn't write a Call of Duty novel and make it a story about Captain Price's grandkids who run a smoke shop in downtown Denver. The fact of the matter is, I am a Resident Evil fan, and I'm going to come into this with certain expectations. There's no avoiding it. This show could have easily been slightly changed and shuffled around to make a brand new IP, and you'll probably hear that a lot. Oh, this would have been good if it was named something other than Resident Evil. And I'm not saying that it would have been good, but I could have looked at it with a more unbiased approach and maybe derived a little bit more entertainment from it. You know, the way you'd watch a sci-fi original series just to see how ridiculous it is. As it stands, I would much rather watch Welcome to Raccoon City again. If not for Lance Reddick, I'm not sure I could have made it the entire way through the series. All in all, Netflix's Resident Evil is just another swing and miss in a very, very long line of swings and misses in Resident Evil adaptions. You can check it out if you want, but it's not for me, and at this point, I don't think it ever will be. Thanks for listening to another one of my rants, and if you want to check out the rest of my channel, I promise you I am not as cynical. Until next time, guys.